Hello and welcome to the Dead on Arrival podcast, presented by the Reverend Dr. Donald E. Dunnigan Sr. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
I want to direct your attention to the scripture that was read in your hearing, first book of Samuel, the 24th chapter. And I'm going to read verses 4 and 5 from the New Living Translation. And it reads, "Now's your opportunity," David's men whispered to him. "Today the Lord is telling you, I will certainly put your enemy into your power to do with as you wish." So David crept forward and cut off a piece of the hem of Saul's robe. But then David's conscience began bothering him because he had cut Saul's robe. I want to use for a topic today, as we draw this series of messages around the habit of the Spirit. We're at the last one, which the last habit of the Spirit is self-control. And I want to leave you with this thought that it's the little things that count. It's the little things that count. David cut off just a little piece of Saul's robe. And I began to explore the life of David as it relates to self-control. And the question that I would leave with you today is, what is it about David that allowed him to exercise self-control in this situation, but not exercise self-control with Bathsheba? You know the story. And what made me become even more intrigued is that I looked at the distance in terms of time between this encounter between David and Saul and his encounter with Bathsheba. How many of us wrestle with self-control in some dimension of our lives? Have you ever noticed that there are within you those moments when you have good self-control, and then over on this other end, like David, you have those Bathsheba encounters where you know in your mind that the thing you are doing is not right, but somehow you don't have the control to not do it? It's like what Paul said, the good that I would do, I don't do. But the thing that I don't want to do, I keep doing. I have this law that when I would do good, evil is always present. So here is David. He has been running for his life. And while he was running to, literally running to save his life, there is a king who is trying to destroy him, and he's literally on the lam. He's running because his life, his very life, is being threatened. And he has the opportunity to end this threat, to take out the person who's trying to kill him. And there was some self-control that prevented him from killing this man. And I thought about it from the time between these two incidences, because there is a man by the name of Hicks, and he writes a book about the masculine journey. And what he says is that as you look at the journey of a man, and often a human being, and here is David, he says there are 5 different stages, or at least 5 different Hebrew words that refer to a man that could indicate 5 different stages of a man's journey. The first one is found in Genesis, where the scriptures tell us that God created male and female. So the masculine journey actually begins with this distinct sexual distinction between a man and a woman. He calls this Zeker. It's the male. And you know, whenever you go for the ultrasound to determine the sex or gender of the baby, they look to see if there is some different paraphernalia that these babies have. And so the male has, y'all got here, y'all know somebody who had sex. Y'all gotta know somebody who had sex before. Don't even look at me like that's a bad word. Looking at me like, well, what is he? Oh no, Pastor didn't just say that, did he? Yes. You wouldn't be here if somebody didn't have sex. And so the first journey starts with this sexual distinction. But then there's another word, and it's called the Gabor. And the Gabor is the warrior male. That's the male who has all these hormones that's raging on the inside, and they make a man compete and strive for excellence. As a matter of fact, you all are looking at me hoping that I get done with this sermon very quickly so you can get home and watch the football game. All right, Brother Aubrey, thank you, man. Somebody's honest in here. Now, if you notice that the people who are playing football are in the Gabor stage. These are the young men with all of this energy, and they go out and bam, they clash heads with other young men and they knock them down. And what they love to do is they like to impose their will on the opponent and push them back. These are the guys that go out to military and they fight in battles and wars. These are the competitors. That's a stage in the masculine journey. And that happens to be the stage that David is in when he encounters Saul. The Gabor stage. But while David was engaged in battles, he was a warrior. You know that Saul killed his thousands, but David, his tens of thousands. Saul was an old dude, but David was a young dude. David was taking him out, a warrior. He did not have a problem using his sword. As a matter of fact, you remember the story of David and the sling? David didn't have a problem taking a dude out. That wasn't his issue. But on this occasion, David did not take him out. He's in the Gabor stage. And then the next stage is the Enosh. And this is the stage where so many men and I would say women find themselves wrestling. They're out of the 20s. They get into their 30s and 40s. Now, when you get to your 30s and your 40s, something happens. You know, a woman would start talking about my clock is ticking. Something's going on. And in that age, what happens is a man is dealing with being wounded from all of the stuff in the Gabor stage. And if you don't deal with the woundedness, wounded by getting laid off, wounded by getting divorced, wounded by losing your job, wounded by losing a relationship, wounded by an absent father, wounded by an overbearing mother, wounded by a psychological, just wounded in my 30s and my 40s, and now I'm trying to figure out what to do with this woundedness. Here is David. David was a warrior, but now David has become a wounded warrior. The man that he loved, the man that he served, he rose up. Saul called all of these young men to be around him to go out to fight battles whenever he needed them to fight battles. David was watching. That's why somebody's always watching you. You must be careful what you say and what you do because somebody is watching you. David was watching Saul, how Saul used the men in his military to send them out to battle. So David learned how to use men in military pursuits to win battles for him. But now David has become a wounded warrior. He's got some stuff that he hasn't really resolved yet, and he's trying to figure out how to deal with all of this in the process of maintaining self-control. Then he calls the next stage the ruler. The ruler is when you get into your 50s. And you're 45, 65, 60s, all that stuff. Now, as the ruler, you start, you know how you say you don't really care what other folks think about you? You it doesn't really matter. You know, when you're young, you want to fit in. You want to be a part. No one that I have ever met that I've heard, you ask them, what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be an alcoholic. You ever anybody say, I want to be an alcoholic? I want to be a drug addict. No. You know, what happens is when you're young, you want to fit in. And your first taste of liquor is horrible. The first taste, in my experience, was horrible. But you acquire a taste for it. You hear that? You acquire a taste. And what motivates you to acquire a taste is you want to fit in with everybody else. I'm at the barbecue and all of the fellas are drinking and I'm the only one that's drinking Coke. I told you the story. I went to the bar once. Well, I mean, no, let me say it like this. Let me clear this up. I went to go order some food, and the only thing that was open was the bar area. So I show up at the bar area, and the guy says, what are you having to drink? Duh. I said, water. And the dudes at the bar just lambasted me. I mean, what the who comes to the bar to order water? Like, who does that, dude? Where you from? I'm like, man, that's all I drink. Now, if I had been a little younger, I may have ordered something other than water because I wanted to fit in. But when you get to the ruler stage, it doesn't much matter. After they finish all of that stuff, by the time the night was over, we were best buddies. As a matter of fact, they offered to pay for my whole meal. Like, man, you're a pretty cool dude. Yeah, I didn't have to do that to fit in because I'm self-differentiated at this stage in the ruler's life. Now, when we find David with Bathsheba, David is actually at this fifth stage. It's the Zakim. And the Hebrew word Zakim actually means he's now a mentor. He's a sage. The Hebrew word actually meant he had this stuff, gray hair. He was able to exercise self-control in the Gabor stage, but missed it in the old age stage. How did that happen? I'm going to give you with a few things here. In the passage that refers to David's slip up is in 2 Samuel, chapter 11. And what we notice in 2 Samuel, chapter 11, is it starts like this. In the spring of the year, when kings normally go out to war, David sent Joab and the Israelite army to fight the Ammonites. And remember, I said that somebody's watching you? Well, David was watching Saul. And David learned that he didn't have to go and fight all of the battles. Some of the battles you could send somebody else to fight for you. David did not go to war. It says when kings normally go to war, David sent. David didn't go to war. He sent somebody else. And they destroyed the Ammonite army and laid siege to the city of Rabbah. However, David stayed behind in Jerusalem. Listen, it's the little things that count. Late one afternoon, after his midday rest, David got out of bed and was walking on the roof of the palace. And as he looked out over the city, he noticed a woman of unusual beauty taking a bath. So he saw. But it's the little things that count. He saw a woman of not just beauty, but she was like that woman over there. She had unusual beauty. And then he sent someone to find out who she was. But it's the little things that count. And he was told she is Bathsheba, the daughter of Eliam and the wife of Uriah the Hittite. Then David sent messengers to get her, and when she came to the palace, he slept with her. Here is an older man who has now made the decision to go past all of the barriers or the stops that would have prevented him from being in this predicament. But how was it that David missed all of this as an older man, but he caught it all as a younger man? He saw in 2 Samuel the woman, but he also saw Saul in 1 Samuel 24. Remember, he crept up to Saul in 1 Samuel, but this time he sent somebody over to find out who Bathsheba was. Let me just say that when it comes to self-control, it's the little things that count. Now, here's what studies have proven. That self-control doesn't happen at the moment of an incident. Oh, let me break that down for you. It's not when you get to see the beautiful woman that you exercise self-control. Something else has to be operating before that encounter ever happens. Are you following? So here's what they say, that self-control is powered by willpower. In other words, Psychologists call it willpower. Preachers call it habits of the spirit. Are you with me? So the willpower has to be strengthened in order to empower self-control. You are not able to exercise self-control if you haven't developed the habits of the Spirit. But when you develop the habits of the Spirit, then the habit of the Spirit empowers you to exercise self-control. So how do we make this? There are three things I want to give you. The first thing you must do is you got to have a goal. You got to make a plan. You got to make sure that you're going somewhere when it comes down to exercising self-control. Here is a plan. AA has it like this. I'm not going to ask anybody been to AA, but I know you know about AA. I've never been to AA, but I heard about AA. I heard about AA. Anybody else heard about AA? Okay. The plan in AA, which is Alcoholics Anonymous, the plan is this. Just for today, I will be sober. That's it. All I need to do is one day at a time. That's the plan. Now, how do you exercise that plan? Well, you have to first of all have a plan, which is to stay sober. Once you set the plan to stay sober, the next thing you do is you monitor it. And the way you monitor your plan is by going to the AA meetings. Studies have been done. People who go to the meetings have a greater chance of staying sober than people who don't go to the meetings. So they wanted to find out, is it because you go to the meetings that you stay sober? Or is it that you stay sober because you go to the meetings? Which one is it? And they found out that the motivating factor for staying sober is by going to the meetings. That's it. In other words, people who get drunk and go to the meetings have a better chance of recovery than people who get drunk and don't go to the meetings. People who sin and don't confess are worse off than people who sin and confess. If you sin and you stay away from the church, chances are you're going to lose the ability to exercise self-control. But if you sin and you come back to the church and you pray and you ask God to help you to overcome your sin, chances are you're going to have stronger self-control. If you miss the mark and you come to church and you get beat down, chances are you're not coming back to church because you done already messed up and you came back to be healed, but you're getting beat down worse. So now you're messed up and you're going to sin more and you're not coming to church in order to get your sins washed and redeemed from all of that has caused you to mess up. So your chances are messing up are much greater when you stay away from the church. So you got to make a plan. And then you've got to have some way to monitor it. So if I'm overeating or overspending or involved in some kind of addictive behavior, I could be spending my money at the casino. I could be watching pornography. I can be engaged in excessive smoking. Whatever it is, if I'm doing that and I don't have a plan, chances are I'm going to keep doing that. And the reason that I'm going to keep doing that is my willpower is weakened, and my willpower empowers my self-control, and I have nothing to empower my self-control because my willpower is weakened. Are you with me? When I'm practicing the habit of the Spirit, then I have something that can help me to overcome my issues of overindulging and putting myself in check with regard to self-control. Make a plan. Whatever it is. Keep track. Monitor it. David messed up because David in his youth said, one thing have I desired, and that will I seek after, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to inquire, and the Lord is my shepherd. The Lord is my light and my salvation. David was practicing it every day, and it's the little things that count. When you pray every day, it's the little things that count that strengthens your ability to withstand the temptation that comes into all of our lives. And trust me when I tell you, I don't care if you are in the very early stages of life, if you are in the Deborah phases of life, if you are in the Zakim phases of life, it doesn't matter. If you think that you can't fall, watch out, because temptation is right around the corner. If you think you've been in the house of the Lord for all of these years and you got it covered, watch out. Temptation is around the corner. There has no temptation taken you, but it's such common to all men, and God will give you the ability to overcome with self-control if you recognize that you are just like everybody else, subject to falling when temptation comes your way. So I have no room to look at you when you mess up. And you've got no fingers to point at me when I miss the mark. Because the truth of the matter is, all of us have sinned and have come short of the glory of God. But when we see a brother or sister overtaken in a fault, you which are spiritual, restore that person. How do you restore them? You restore them with love. How do you restore them? You restore them with gentleness. How do you restore them? You restore them with peace. How do you restore them? You restore them with kindness. How do you restore them? You go down and you walk alongside them and say, hey brother, I'm not looking down on you, but I'm offering you a hand to pick you up so that we can keep traveling down this road together, because tomorrow I might need your hand to pick me up when I fall short. Self-control. Here's what they say. Watch this. I'm going to give you this, two more things I'm going to give you. The first thing, you got to have a plan. The second thing, you got to monitor it. Want to lose weight? You're going to have to get on the scale every day. See, that's it. Oh, Lord. Every day. Every day. Yep. Every day. Got a plan? Monitor it. Get on the scale every day. Every day. Just now here's what they say. This is going to blow your mind. You don't actually use self-control to stop eating. That's not where you use self-control. You don't even need to use self-control to stop eating. You have to develop your muscles of willpower that will then reduce the need for self-control to stop eating. How do you develop the willpower? It's simple. When David saw the beautiful woman, willpower muscle tells him to turn away. Stop at that moment. I've seen her. That's it. It just requires one small interruption of a process that starts every day. Make up your bed every day. What does that have to do with anything, Pastor? It's developing willpower. Brush your teeth every day. Well, what does that have to do with anything? You're just developing willpower. Take a shower every day. Some people take showers twice a day. Take a shower every day. What does that have to do with anything? You're just developing willpower. Say your prayers every day. What does that have to do? You're just developing willpower. Read the Bible every day. What is that doing? It's just developing willpower. If you start doing positive habits every day, you're developing your muscles for willpower. And once you develop your muscles for willpower, when your willpower turns on to help your self-control, it's operating at a 9-volt power as opposed to a 1.3 volt. It can get some stuff done. You ever see a 1.3 volt light, flashlight? You turn it on and you just got a little bit of light like that. But you turn that 9 volt on, it's got like that. So when you turn on that willpower to empower your self-control, you're able to stop that thought just like that. You're able to say, well, I don't need that Snicker right now. But your brain tells you you do. Your brain says, I need that Snicker right now. Oh my God, I saw that commercial about Burger King Whoppers, and I have to go get me a Whopper right now. No. And you might, but here's where procrastination works in your favor. Put it off. That's the idea, just put it off. Just put it off. Procrastinate on that snack. Procrastinate on taking that trip. Procrastinate. I feel like I need to have a cigarette now. Just put it off. Put it off. Put it off for 5 minutes. And what you do in that 5 minutes develops your willpower. And the next time you do it, put it off for 6 minutes. And what you've done now is develop willpower. And then the next time, put it off for 7 minutes. And the next thing you know, you've gotten more willpower. And then hang around with somebody who stopped smoking. Because when scientific research, if you hang around with people who stop smoking, chances are higher that you will stop smoking. Because you have hung around with someone who you thought, they say, you can't smoke, nicotine is addictive, you cannot stop doing it. Yes, you can. How many of you have ever stopped smoking? Anybody used to be a smoker? You don't smoke anymore. So it's possible. Hang around with some folks who used to smoke. Let them be a source of encouragement to you. So when it comes to self-control, 3 things. 1, you got to have a plan. You got to keep track of it. And then here's the last thing I want to leave you. When you are in the process of developing healthy habits, and this one's really good. This is going to help some of you insomniacs as well. When you are in the process of exercising self-control, you say, I'm going to do this or nothing else. You ever go to bed and can't sleep? Anybody ever had that challenge? You go to bed and you can't sleep. So you lay down and you know you can't sleep, so what do? You turn the TV on, right? And then you watch. If you got ADD, you turn the TV on, that'll knock you out every time. I just put a movie on. I can't sleep, put a movie on. Go to sleep when it's movie time. So when you can't sleep, you simply tell yourself, I'm going to sleep or nothing else. I'm not going to play on the phone. I'm not going to tabulate what I got to do tomorrow. I'm not going to turn the TV on. I'm not going to do anything else. I'm going to sleep or I'm going to do nothing. I'm going to eat now or I'm going to do nothing. It's this or nothing. And what the research shows is that when you do this, actually they did a research on writers. You have people with writer's block? People are writers, they're authors, they write. Well, they found out that those who set aside an hour to write or nothing else, they would have a block. But then after they got past the block or nothing else, they found out that the habit of writing just happened every day for 1 hour. Right, every day for 1 hour. The person who writes every day for 1 hour, they found out was the person who was able to get tenured in a university faster than those who wrote when they got the inspiration. The inspiration may come, but you haven't developed willpower. This or nothing else develops willpower. So you're getting your willpower muscle strengthened. And when the willpower muscle is strengthened, it empowers you to be able to exercise self-control in any area of your life because you have more spirit empowering you to exercise self-control. Here's what I want to leave you with. The challenge. How many of you have some area where you want to have more self-control? All right. Here's the challenge. This week, we don't want to focus on self-control. We want to focus on willpower. So we're going to develop your willpower muscle. This week, every single day, practice the habit of the Spirit. Every single day, habit of the Spirit. And you know where you have your prayer? Where you have the habit of the Spirit, just for review. The first thing you do with the habit of the Spirit is what? You have to sit still. So you got to sit still. The second thing you do is you what? You pray. Then after you pray, what do you do next? You just inhale slowly and exhale slowly. Don't forget to exhale slowly. And then after you do that, what do? I can't hear you. You read what? Okay, don't go to the newspaper because that's going to mess everything up. You read the Bible. You're going to read from the Word of God. And then after you read from the Word of God, what are you going to do? You're going to inquire. What are you asking? So you have an area where you want self-control. God, I'm asking you to show me how to exercise self-control in this area. That's your prayer. And then what do? You thank God. I prayed, Brother Peter can tell you, I prayed this morning because I wanted to have a sermon title for you. And I had a ton of them. But I went through the habit of the Spirit this morning. And while I was in the habit of the Spirit, this is what I said. I said, Lord, show me what title to use to help the people. And I went through this passage and I saw, which I had read all week, I saw where David cut a little patch of Saul's garment. And it bothered his conscience. And I said, that's it. It's the little things that count. We're going for the big things. It's the little things that count. Develop the habit of the Spirit, which builds your ability to exercise all of the fruit of the Spirit, because the habit of the Spirit empowers your will and your behavior. You can do it. Turn to someone, tell them you can do it. Listen, tell them you can do it and you know it. You can do it and you know it. You can do it and you know it. We're going to exercise self-control this week through the power of the habit of the Spirit. Let's give the Lord some praise.
Thank you for joining us. See you next week. We upload our podcast every Sunday at 7 p.m. Thanks again, and have a great day.